Hi there, and welcome to this episode of the Everyday Millionaire Mindset Matters podcast, where I'm joined by my wife, Olympic mental performance coach, Steffany Hanlon-Francie. In these episodes, Steffi and I have a conversation about the different aspects of what we refer to as Mindset Matters, because we believe that for those who are awake, we are living in and through the most impactful time in history. Your view of the world is the filter for how you will experience the evolution and changing dynamics of it. Our intention is to provide you with ideas, nutritious food for thought, and some tools that you can use to help you in being your greatest self and living your best life. Listen in, enjoy. Hey there, and welcome to the Everyday Millionaire Mindset Matters podcast, Steffany.
Hey, hon.
So it kind of feels officially summer now. You know, we were on the road, then I was on the road, and then we're now into July. And I feel like, okay, summer has officially started, and things will, by the nature of the beast, start to slow down a little bit. And yeah, so summer's officially started. We even had some time by the pool, celebrated my birthday. Oh my gosh, I'm getting older.
That was fun.
Yeah. Older, wiser.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So we had a great weekend, and then we got a couple things to talk about. And I guess the theme is that mindset is simple, if we're going to do that. Now, having said that, I once had an acronym for simple. It was actually success is simple. And it was about success is significantly impacting many people's lives every day. That's how you can achieve success. And that was came up in an acronym that came up in a meditation. It had to be 15-ish years ago that has kind of followed me along and around, and I use it occasionally and pull it out because it's a reminder that for us, mission, purpose, that's really what it is. You know, how can we have an impact on other people's lives? Many is, of course, an interesting thought process, because many is what happens when you consider the ripple effect. You know, when you impact one person, and that one person takes what you taught and into their family, into their friends, into the community, into their workplace, you start to realize that there is a ripple effect, so you can have a big impact. And part of what reminded me of that is we both had an interesting experience, is that when you were in Hawaii and you were what were you? What do they call you?
The officiant.
The officiant. Yes, the wedding officiant. Okay, I can remember what your title was. I know that you are
or Queen of the World, you know, number one coach, Queen of the World.
You are an ordained minister. Anyways, the point is that as much as you worked for several years with Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, and you had a great relationship with them to the degree that they asked you to marry them, but what you weren't aware of is how much of an impact that you had on their life, which had an impact on their family's life. So it was a really kind of powerful experience. You want to share a little bit?
Well, it threw me off. I mean, you know, first of all, being asked to do something like that was a huge honor. And, you know, it really slowed me down, right? It humbled me in a way that I am having an impact on their lives. So full stop, that's really part of my purpose. And then we get to Hawaii and we meet their friends and their family and their sister-in-law, brother-in-law, cousins, aunts, uncles from all over North America, athletes from around the world. And they're telling us about the impact that we've had. And then we have a couple of the skaters waiting to meet Patrick because they follow you on Instagram and all this kind of stuff. And we realize, like, in our world, like, they're the celebrities. Like, we're kind of just nobodies, right? And then we get there and it's like, holy cow. Wow. And we're hearing the difference and the gratitude and the things that, for example, Madison and Evan have shared with their families. So, for example, the books that I recommended that Madison bought Evan for Christmas now are going through all the families. So what's happening is they're elevating their conversations, they're elevating their communication and their awareness and their understanding of what it takes for Maddie and Evan to be away, or any athlete or anybody who's really striving to live their best life and be their greatest self. So it was an example of all of that, 35-year overnight success, I guess.
Well, there's a couple parts to it, right? The impact you've had on your clients, and then the ripple effect of that significantly impact many people's lives every day. That was my way of becoming successful or having success. That was, that's that part of it. And then, of course, from that side of it, then you get to also be honored and feel like, oh, okay, I am making a difference, because we don't really know. We don't often know. I had a similar experience when I went to the event in Toronto. We kind of got home from Hawaii. I jumped on an airplane, went to Toronto, and it was a great event with Alfonso Cuadra, his Expand event, which gave me an opportunity to reconnect with many who I know that have been in the industry, RAIN members, former RAIN members, and just individuals who are kind of by association I've gotten to know over the years. The point is that along the way, we get to get comments that we don't normally get. I mean, we live in a really, comparatively speaking to what we were doing for so many years, we live very much in a virtual world, and it's less communicative. It's less engaged, I find, of course, with the audience, and for all the reasons that it is. But the point is that I had a number of people go, hey, listen, I listened to your podcast, or do you remember when I was a RAIN member and I bought my first property? Well, now I own 6, and it made a huge difference in my life. So those are the kinds of things that you go, oh, okay, great. We're doing what we love to do. And every so often when we're questioning it, we go, okay, no, we're still good. We're still good. We are making a difference, and that's really cool. Now, along all of that kind of backstory, in kind of sharing what Simple was really all about, along the way, over the many 25 years, I guess, really, you often came up with these little sayings in your mind that were either some form of a mantra or something that evolved just because you started saying them and people kept saying, well, you keep saying that to me, you're particularly your coaching clients, right? So then you created a list of Steffisms, and these are just common phrases from Steffany that you've come up with over the years that you use. And then you created some, what do we call these cards? Steffism cards?
Mm-hmm.
Really nice cards.
Audio, there's a little box of 52 cards. It's kind of like a playing deck. And I just thought when I wasn't around. Sorry?
One a week. One a week.
There you go.
There you go. You shared gold cards with me. Like you said, we've got gold cards. Do you have silver and bronze cards, or just gold?
Well, no, it's a box of cards. And when we were designing them, Marnie and I were designing them, Marnie Griffiths has this really cool penmanship, and I just love how she writes. And she had come up with her cards, and I thought, well, why can't I copy that idea? And so it's not like they're silver and gold cards. They're just these really cool. They look kind of like the universe,
Yes. No, they're very cool.
Right. And then there's 52 of them. I mean, when we would be on the road, or maybe they were in Europe and I was somewhere else. And so they'd take my cards, and if they just needed a quick connection to me and couldn't have a call or whatever, I would just say, well, pull a card. And, it was random. It's not like it's some kind of hooey witchcraft or whatever, but it's just a reminder of some of the things that we talk about. I mean, one of the funnier ones is when you're done speaking, stop talking.
Okay. Okay, let's give this a little bit more context. So you took these cards, you designed a deck of cards that are a little bit bigger than playing cards, and they have your Steffisms. And Marnie does have really funky handwriting. It looks really good on those cards, by the way. So the point is that you had a bunch of those boxes of cards made, you give them to your clients, and then that's part of sometimes their own personal grounding exercise, or going into a coaching session with you, you may have them pull a card just to kind of open a conversation, see what's showing up. How does that land for you? Because it seems that the universe has the, just that way of the right card, the right person, the right something. The universe madly coordinates all the things that we need to get. So you had one, this card that you're just talking about right now is, what is it? When you're
done speaking, stop talking.
Yes. Do you want to unpack that a little deeper, or is that
exactly? So, for example, I have some clients that I don't know if it's verbal diarrhea or they just it's a way of stress release or something, where they use they talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. So I don't know if it's a delay tactic or they just don't want to get to the point. So I just would make up funny lines and said, are you done speaking? Because if you are, you can stop talking.
It's funny you bring that up. Yes, it's funny you bring that up because in our raising capital course, one of the things we talk about is when you're speaking with a potential joint venture partner, a potential capital partner of some sort, perhaps, whatever, it's not really a negotiation, but you're in the conversation. And when you get to a point and you've said what you need to say, be quiet, like quit talking. Yeah. And in a negotiation, it is a really effective tactic because people are uncomfortable in the quiet. And what was really fun about doing that exercise is I would do it with a room of a few hundred people and have the whole room, and I would stop talking. I would say something and stop talking. And 60 seconds in, not even, people were fidgeting in their seats. Then there would be a little bit of giggling, and it was absolutely. And then it was just interesting, right? So I think that over talking, and not that I'm probably just as guilty as anybody for it, but the point is, quit talking, and it's really uncomfortable. So people keep talking. Okay, people, we're on audio, honey.
I was just proving a point there.
You can't do that exercise.
Well, this one here, it's this one gets pulled a lot, is don't try to be something you're not, because that's weird.
Okay. Yeah, my response to that is that you're weird, but what does that mean to you?
Well, the insights are what come into the conversation. Because if someone's trying too hard or they're trying to do a performance that isn't authentic, people feel it. It's weird. So if there's a program that they're working in an ice dance world, or if I'm working with somebody that's working on a speech or a presentation of some kind, is that how do I get them to their authentic self? And if they're not putting on a performance, they're actually expressing themselves through, whether it's action, through its words, it could be through figure skating, ice dance, whatever it is that they're expressing. The goal is to get to their authentic self. And when they're trying to be somebody else, people feel it. And I just, in order to make them laugh, I just go, stop doing that. It's weird. Here's another one. Make friends with someone you don't need.
Okay, so that one I kind of get. The reason I was going to, not kind of, I get that one if I just stop and think about it for a second.
Yeah.
My point about the other one was I'm going, okay, if I pulled that card and you weren't there to walk me through it, what would it mean to me?
Oh, good question. Well, you know what? I think by the time I'm able to give a client a deck of cards, they probably heard me say versions of this many, different ways. So it would be maybe a grounding back to maybe they are trying too hard guy at the time. I mean, how I came up with trying too hard guy is that I used to work in the NHL with hockey players they'd be shimmying up to the bar and wanting to buy the captain a drink and hey, and bringing attention to themselves and trying too hard. And it's like, it's just weird. It creates a funny energy. So if they pull that card, for example, it would be a reflection point and go, where am I not being myself? Where do I need to calm down? Stop trying too hard. There is no more. Why am I pushing so hard to maybe insert myself into conversations that don't matter? So when a card comes up for somebody, if they don't understand it, it's a moment to do some journaling, some self-reflection and go, yeah, I really am trying too hard at this point. It's not good. And really dial it back, so to speak.
There's a part of that, I think, when the reflective mode. So if that card showed up for me and I say, okay, well, I'm going to take some guidance from this card. I'm going to use this card to think about how I occur. So then it becomes self-reflective. Self-reflective is very hard. So then it becomes about the question that you have to ask yourself. And I was reminded this again at the event where I was speaking to somebody, then we had an open Q&A, and somebody came up and asked me a why question. And I suggested to them that the question was a valid part of asking questions, but rather, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me all the time? Why is this? The question, if you reframed it, could be, how is this happening for me? Now, if you look at the why is this happening to me versus how is this happening for me, they're two totally different directions that you go. Now, the only reason I bring that one, it's a fairly straightforward example of how to shift the question. When I look at and listen to what you just said, is that what do we frame the question? How do you think I would frame that question? Like, I really want to think about this, because it's when you're trying to look in the mirror and there's no mirror to look at, as in there's nobody there to tell you or suggest or even reflect back to you. So if you're reflecting over the course of a week and you're going, how am I showing up? Am I being real? What do you think? There's a couple of specific questions that we might ask?
Yeah, I think because you made a good point. There are mirrors all over the place. People are reflecting back to us all the time. If that's what even judgment is like, or jealousy. Jealousy is a mirror. If you're feeling jealous, it generally means that it's somewhere where you want to go next, or it's something that you don't have that you really want. It's really not about the other person. And in the coaching and the Champions Journey, for example, in Mindset Matters, and even in our think tank, as we talked a lot about, people can only respond to you when you're being your authentic self in the way that you can respond to them, to their authentic self. So if you're chatting or you're taking conversations off the rails, or you're pretending or you're lying or whatever, I mean, I just pulled a card randomly when you were talking, and it says, when you know someone is lying to you or they're trying to set you up, just stare at them blankly.
I don't even know what to say about that one. Yes.
Right. But it's funny because, so for example, you say, you're taking a look, you're doing self-reflection, maybe you're going through it. Where am I not being authentic? Well, maybe it's just time to pause and consider doing some journaling, doing some self-regulation work. I know that sounds a little bit high level, but when these kinds of things can resonate and click in a second, that can change the trajectory or the intention of where you're going. And I find in high performers, especially whether it's athletes or high net worth clients or whatever, they get going, and they get going hard and fast. And next thing you know, people are maybe trying to take advantage of them, or they're showing up a certain way. I always tell a story about, if you're showing up in a relationship or a friendship, trying to, being all buttoned up and being your best self, but you're really kind of really a goofball, or you're funny or whatever. And then you show up in another crowd of people that expect you to be a goofball. And the person that thinks you're all buttoned up comes to the same party. They're like, which one are you? Okay.
So I would unpack that just a little bit, because there is, by your own kind of standard or training or explanation, there is always that performer self when you get into those kinds of scenarios, right? So although you go to one event and it's a different vibe than another event, you then would not show up necessarily the same way. I might not be in a business type environment. I may not be as gregarious as I am at a wedding or at a more fun event. You know what I'm saying? Is that your own energy and how you occur has to match the energy of the event or the room, unless you're intentionally coming in there and going, I'm going to bring the energy up in this room. Right. You know what I'm saying? But then again, that's some version or some level of your performer self. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with you. Your performer self still has to be your authentic self. Like, you can't just show up and put on a performance. Like, for example, when I was doing the, performing the wedding for Madison and Evan, I was being my same self, even though I was in a wedding and wearing a really cool outfit and my hair was pulled back and, I was nervous. I still had to access my performer self, but I wasn't inauthentic. If I stumbled on a word, I laughed at myself, because I can look at myself and be and have that humility. So I'm not trying to pretend to be all perfect in that ordained, as much as I want it to be perfect. That's not who I am. So I have to honor my values and honor who I am and be who we are in all situations. We had that comment many times when we go on vacation with people. They're like, okay. And then they come to our house and you're the same people on vacation that you are at your house. That's really cool. So there's a way of being that is about developing your values to the most important core standard of who you're going to be in all situations. People who could, Maddie and Evan could rely on me to show up as professional, as funny, as, humble, as silly, as, I dance kind of a little bit like Elaine on Seinfeld, but whatever, but they can trust that I'm not going to.
Go back. Stop. Go back to say, you got to go, Maddie and Evan, and say it with that same exuberance. Maddie and Evan could depend on me to show up.
Madison and Evan could depend on me to show up to marry them in Hawaii in front of all their friends and family in the most important day of their lives that was going to be on People Magazine and on NBC News or whatever. But I was going to be myself. They can trust that because they've seen me in different situations where I've had to be professional. I've had to handle adversity. I've had to be silly and fun or dance like Elaine on Seinfeld. They know that I'm going to be myself in all scenarios, and they trust that. They didn't think that I was going to show up and all of a sudden be this, gregarious or grandiose or Gandhi-like minister.
Okay, no,
that I was just
and that's certainly not what I was implying at all. But I do, yes, I appreciate the explanation, though. Okay, I want to go on to another card, because this is one that you and I sometimes will have moments of bicker about, because you use this one on me and it annoys me sometimes. There are no answers, only decisions. Decide. That's one of your goals.
Out of 52 cards, there's 10 gold cards, and this is probably the most important ones. So
10.
One of the things that I used to hear all the time.
Is that why it pisses me off?
Probably. Well, because you don't like to commit sometimes. You were waiting for the answer to show up.
Be quiet.
It's true. There are no answers. There are only decisions. And if you're looking for an answer, it means you're looking outside of yourself or something. The decisions that you make will give you a result. You either like the result or you don't like the result. Just decide, move on, decide, move on, decide, move on. Then if things aren't working, go back and re-choose and find out and investigate, because you got feedback. But if you're sitting around waiting for answers, to me, that's the biggest procrastination and the biggest waste of time on the planet. It's I'm just waiting for the answer. I don't know the answer. What's the answer? The answer. I have no idea. It's not like a multiple choice test. Life is not a multiple choice test. There are no answers.
I don't think anybody's sitting around waiting for the answer to show up.
Most people are.
Okay. Well, okay. I don't know about most, many.
Well, listen, I work with a lot of people and I'm married to you. And every time you say, I don't have the answer, I go, well, just make a decision, see what happens.
Okay. So I understand that. Make a decision and just keep making and redeciding. It's about a redecision if necessary.
Well, that kind of leads to this next gold card. And it says, friends aren't friends till they tell you the truth. So I must be your best friend.
Well, I think there should be a card that says, friends aren't friends until I can hear the truth.
Oh.
Because there's the other side of friends, right? It's one thing to be told the truth. It's another to hear the truth. So you have to come up with another side of that card, which is the giver and the receiver. The implication is that true friends will tell you some shit. The other side of that is you have to be open to receiving it.
Yeah.
So you need another card.
Yeah, I get that. Well, here's my one of my favorite ones is pay yourself first. See that now we're getting to the pragmatic and the practical ones. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, pay yourself first. That's a one your mom gave you?
Yep. Yeah, when we were young, 10%. It didn't matter if I got, lemonade stand money and I had $1, 10 cents had to go into a jar or something. So my whole life I paid myself first. So I have a money game that I play with myself, but I also play with my clients and teaching them about, you can get get a paycheck and you want to pay your bills. Absolutely. But if you don't honor yourself and pay yourself a little bit, or back then it was 10%, because I think there was, we didn't make a lot of money back then selling lemonade or, teaching skating for $10 an hour or whatever, but $1 of that would always go somewhere. So when we had debit cards show up, for example, I always had money in the account, I did go through a stage of life in my early 20s where I forget to open bills or whatever. And I ended up having some issues with my finances, but I learned my lesson fast. And I went back to the pay yourself first mantra. And now I have a 0 that I increase all the time, where if I get under a certain amount of money, I actually start to panic. So that means the trigger is I haven't been paying myself or honoring myself. And the work that we did, even with DeMartini, money is a form of appreciation. So when you think about something increasing in value, it appreciates. So if we don't appreciate ourselves and pay ourselves for what it is that we're doing, then we're really not honoring the contributions that we're making. I want to do my best work and I want to live my best life and I want to give what I can and I want to be paid handsomely for it. We are allowed to do that as human beings. And I have a whole, concept in my work called the starving artist syndrome. And, people think that they have to give their art for free, right? And it's not true. Your value, art, whatever it is, whether it's business, art, speaking, you're a mechanic, you're a handyman, you're a bookkeeper, you're a great mom, whatever it is that you're doing, there's value to that. And to not pay yourself something, whether it's financial or time alone, or maybe I used to do a whole concept around a nurture list, like how, when I wasn't, sometimes you would be paying all the bills at one point and I wasn't taking a paycheck early in our marriage, I would have to find a way to nurture myself. And I would created a nurture list for myself so that I could do something. It didn't have to be nails and hair and all that. It could be just walking in nature, or it could be, snuggling the dogs or something. So we really have to find a way to pay ourselves first before we pay any bills or anybody else.
Good guidance. I'm reminded a little bit though of, because you were busy and I had a guest on Mindset Matters for the last episode, Shelley Lefko, who we talked about beliefs. And so it's interesting that when we look at some of the things that you brought up today with your cards, is that some of it is just training yourself to and or shifting your operating system in terms of what your beliefs are. Shelley, talked a lot about that on her, what turned out to be, it was supposed to be an Everyday Millionaire podcast, but 10 minutes into the conversation, I went, oh, this is going to be good. I'm going to try this one for a Mindset Matters because it was so good.
It was so good.
And hopefully people enjoyed it. I thought she was great and was really interesting. We really unpacked beliefs. And so what you're sharing here today is about beliefs. And so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I'm really grateful that timing, and it's like you said, the universe shows up with something and you ended up interviewing this woman. She was supposed to be on Everyday Millionaire, but it was such a great fit. But so that brings up the next gold card. Plans change, people change. Get over it.
Plans change, people change. This is so interesting that, plans change, people change. Isn't that true? And maybe, it's interesting is that we've made observations over the past 5 or 6 years about just how much people we know have changed. Now, having said that, I'm sure on the other side of it, there's people that are going, wow, Patrick and Steffany ever changed. And that may not necessarily be good. That may not land with people, or vice versa. We've had some friends that we've known for years, they just drifted away. They seemed to change. And maybe we both changed, but isn't that interesting that plans change, people change, and get over it. And when you're thinking about it, the fundamental is that friends come and go. And it's always cool when you can say we've been friends for 25 or 30 years, but you also start to realize how rare that actually is in most instances. And, you know people and you may know them and be in their life for a number of years because of whatever, and it could be just friendship. It could be old history. It could be what you're doing in business. And then all of a sudden, plans change, people change. And isn't it interesting that we've ourselves noticed that over the past, let's say, few years, 5, 6 years, but I guess in our lifetime, there are certainly times where people are in your life and they drift off in your life, or people that seem to change. What I'm suggesting, however, is that perhaps that's how people see us as well. Mm-hmm. That may very well be, wow, Patrick and Steffany ever changed. As we're growing, as we believe we're growing and shifting, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but over time, we start to say things differently. We start to maybe behave differently. We make different choices. That could be all part of plans change, people change. My point is that over the years, you think about, we like to consider that we have friends forever, but that's not necessarily the case. We've had many friends that we've had for 10, 15, 20 years, and then we just, for whatever reason, drift apart. Life, kids, careers, whatever, right? And so plans change, people change. get over it.
Yeah. And I think I kind of, again, try it tongue in cheek, get over it, because if you hang on to it, you will then miss the opportunities that are coming towards you. And it's not like you rip the Band-Aid off and you say goodbye and, screw you or whatever. It's not that. It's people come into our life. My mom always said, for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And we have to honor those seasons, reasons. Mm-hmm. And if a lifetime, in your case, you're stuck with me forever. But I've had friends that I know why they were in my life. There was a lesson or a message or a gift that they brought to me and I brought to them, and then it was over. And then if you just need to hang on to that to be able to say, I've been friends for 30 years or 40 years with this person, but you really have nothing in common anymore, or they don't really align with your values anymore. And then there's the ones that you just can get together with randomly after 2 years, and it's like time stood still. So I just think it's allowing those moments, and plans will change. People will have things that they have to do that will mess up your day. And, so you can hang on to that, or you can just go, plans change. Got it. I'm disappointed. See ya. Have a great time. Hope it works out. So it's really in how I hold the plans changing and the people changing, because I want to be held in that same level of respect.
Beautiful. Okay. So these cards are cool. Do you have any, if somebody wanted to buy some cards, how much are they? Like $25 or something?
They're $25.
$25. Okay, cool. And if they wanted to order them, how do they do that?
Well, they can email me at Steffany@SteffanyHanlon.com or Steffany@RainCanada.com.
Any parting words? Oh, wise one?
No, I'm just so happy that I get to explain some of my cards to you. It's so great. I mean, it's like you're getting to know a whole different side of me.
No, I'm not getting just here, honey. I get all of these. I'm glad you explained some of these cards to me, though. Thank you. This is another episode of The Everyday Millionaire.
Oh my God, that was fun, actually.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. If you found value in the podcast, please take the time to rate and review and share with others. Share with your friends. As it is my goal to always improve and to provide the highest value for you, the listener. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions you'd like answered, please email me at ceo@RainCanada.com. That's CEO@ReinCanada.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, Patrick out.